All right, hello and welcome. This is a leveling guide. I don't remember the last time I've done one, if I've ever actually done a leveling guide, but what this is for is it's a Warpath companion leveling guide. So if you're going to play the Warpath build that I just put out, and you want a smooth leveling process that transitions directly into that build, including mid-game setup, because Warpath has a lot of like nuance that you can miss if you don't know what you're doing, then this is for you. Now, one caveat is if you want to start Warpath full on, full bore from level 1, it's not quite what I'm doing. So I'm starting with Rive, with Warpath used like just to get through some packs. Around level 30 or so, we transition to full Warpath, or at least Warpath primary, Rive secondary. So let's talk about how that works and why we're gonna do that and not Warpath. So Warpath itself is fine to level with, but it really struggles with single target damage early. And that can really slow you down, and it can make boss fights feel like a slog. Well, Rive doesn't. And Rive is still good at clear. The reason Rive is good is because we can take Bound Weapon. And Bound Weapon creates forged weapons that can take the stats of our own weapon, and it effectively uses them. So if you have a chance to ignite in your weapon, they have a chance to ignite. If you have melee void damage, they have melee void damage. So we take a two-hander to give them maximum amounts, and then we also take Foe Cleaver to double the amount of stuff on our weapon. This makes their single target and our single target very, very good, and allows us to get through the campaign smoothly, dealing with the hardest stuff in a much more easy fashion. So we can still use Warpath, have it somewhere on our bar, spin a little bit whenever we have a pack of enemies we want to get through and do some damage to them. So it's not like a full-on don't use Warpath at all, but we're not speccing into it until level 20, and we're not taking full advantage of it until somewhere around level 30. But I think for people like Warpath, Rive's not exactly the same, but it's relatively close, and it's going to feel really good, especially once you pick up Bound Weapon and Foe Cleaver, and it's going to be a lot faster. The second thing we're going to do is pick up Shield Rush. Now, we're using a two-handed weapon, right? And I've had this question a lot. How are you using Shield Rush and a two-handed weapon? You don't have a shield, and it requires a shield. It says right there, requires a shield. Because we can take Dark Rush, which makes it not require a shield. It makes it cost more, but we're going to reduce the cost significantly from Rush Mastery. And on top of that, we take the passive that gives us mana back when we use Rive, which we couldn't get from Warpath. And this allows us to absolutely blow through the content. So if you're trying to go quickly, this is a really good setup. If you're trying to take your time, you can still do that. This is set up for people who kind of want to get through the campaign and get to the end game. It will get you there. Well, in my testing, I've run this like 20 to 30 times already. Some on live and some on CT. But even on live, where it's actually weaker, my best run is 1 hour and 35 minutes to Monoliths. So that's going to chapter 5 and then jumping straight into Monoliths there. So we will jump back in to chapter 9 through the Temporal Sanctum dungeon later. But still, you are in endgame in almost 1 hour and a half at my fastest run. So realistically, for someone who's really good at the game, it's going to be a sub 2 hour. Exactly how much depends on how lucky you get, just how efficient you're trying to be. For someone who's not so efficient with the game, it's going to be a bit longer, but still, it's going to be a lot quicker than most setups you could do. So we start with Rive, we go into Shield Rush, and then our third one will be Warpath. And we will actually make it for Fire, and we're going to be a Paladin. This is going to be a Void Knight eventually, but we're going to start as a Paladin, because now we have a Mastery respec, and Paladin's just better early game. And going Paladin, Fire, Ignite, by the way, this will tell you exactly what to take when. So don't forget the slider bar. So you can see we're gonna cut down on the mana cost in Warpath. Then we're gonna go take Fire, and then we're gonna take Path of Fire, which gives us an additional Ignite Trail and Ignite Duration. And then we're gonna get our speed up there, and then we're gonna start going into the Void stuff. So at this point, we're basically to the end game. Let's talk about the passives, then we'll talk about Symbols of Hope, and we'll talk about when that plays in, because this is like kind of the early stuff. This is really early. This is your second skill. This is level 20 to about level 30. That's what we're looking at. So passive-wise on that, we have a pretty standard looking Sentinel tree. We're going to get Void Res, Fire Res, Strength, Armor, Damage Reduction, Health, and Cooldown Recovery for our movement skill. These are all just really good for early game where you get a little bit tankier, go a little bit faster. Then Time of Faith is a huge jump for us, and it happens pretty close to when we get Shield Rush, where we get mana and we get health on every use. So it's also a source of sustain, just really, really strong. Then, when you get to your mastery, make sure to take Paladin. Even though you want to be a Void Knight eventually, you want to be a Paladin for now, and you'll respec later, and trust me, you'll have enough gold, it'll be fine, it won't be a problem. The mastery cost, respec cost is not very high. So then we're going to go into Paladin, take 5 points in Conviction to increase our fire damage and fire pen, and 10 points into Phoenix Strike to increase our Ignite chance, and get additional 20% fire pen with Ignite, which does not exist on live, it will exist tomorrow. That's a significant, significant boost in damage compared to what we have now. Then you'll take 5 more points in Holy Icon, which will give you necrotic resistance, which by the point you are here, you're going to be dealing with some necrotic enemies, and this is a really big benefit, and you get some health regen and health on top of it. At that point, you can start to put some points into Void Knight. It's not super important right now, but that's how we're going to do it naturally to transition into the second stage. We'll put some points into Abyssal Endurance, we'll put some points into Devouring Blade, and honestly, I'm actually going to switch this real quick, because we want to take that 5-pointer in Abyssal Endurance, get a little bit of damage reduction. There we go. And I'll just go ahead and save that. Boom. So we'll get our Abyssal Endurance, we'll take a little bit less void and physical damage, and then we'll get some leech. At this point, you'll be transitioning from leveling to mid-game, which we'll talk about in a bit. But let's go into the equipment here, and then we'll talk about uniques for leveling as well. The equipment section is set up so that if you get completely unlucky and get no random unique drops, you still know what to do. Avarice is a guaranteed drop off of side quests, so make sure to get those. Especially with your Ignite, you're going to want that because you're going to get Leech, but also Elemental Resistance is really nice. Your weapon is the most important thing by far in this setup. It usually is, especially with Foe Cleaver and especially with your minions, your forged weapons, benefiting from your axe. Added melee damage is really good. Ignite is your best, and then other dots are really good too. Any of those are really good. Melee attack speed is also good. Melee crit, not so good. You just can't skill crit very well. If you get Leech, that's fine too, but like you really want as much damage as possible. And if you can get a Cultist Chopper around 17-20, you're gonna be golden with that. The other things in here are nice to have mostly. Move speed is really good early game. It's really good all game, but Silver Rings and then move speed on boots is excellent. A new thing, well, actually, let me mention the amulet first so I don't forget. Melee attack speed on amulet's solid, because you have very few sources of melee attack speed early game, so it's like basically 15% multiplier. But a new stat is ward per second, ward decay threshold. Doesn't exist in the game right now. As of tomorrow, it does. It can drop early game, and if it does, pick that up. It is so much more survivability because it's effectively regen and additional health, and it's a lot. Ward decay threshold 74 does not mean you'll end up with 74 ward. It means that is where the ward decay starts. So you're going to end up with like well over 100, maybe 120, 130 ward on top of whatever you have, and as a source of constant regen. So these are super strong early game, and you can get them in your amulet and your ring slots. If you see these, pick them up. They are incredible for your early game's survivability. Outside of that, we're mostly looking at resistances and health on your gear. Get it where you can, and when you can get a Mournful Pennant, they're really good. Like, I know 5 health gained on melee hit doesn't seem like much, but if you get surrounded by a bunch of enemies, a single Rive can give you like 40, 50 health easy, and it attacks quickly, and so it can sustain you through like really difficult encounters. You combine that with the Rive 10% health you're getting from the passive tree, and you're going to be really, really hard to kill. If you happen to get ward per second as well, like good luck, you're probably not going to die. Just focus on your resistances at that point. So this will get you really far along. As far as idols, I've just put in some stuff that's generally good. Resistances, of course. Bleed, Ignite. Stun Avoidance is strong early game. It sucks late game, but it's strong early game. Any of these are good. Damage over time, any of these are good. Whatever you can find. Now, if you get lucky and get some uniques, here's the ones that you want. Here's the ones that you really like. I'm going to try to go in a general order of like priority. But some of these are really close. We already talked about Avarice and how good that is. One I don't have in here, if you get super early game, it falls off fast. But if you can get a Firestarter's Torch, I'm talking like the first 5-10 levels at max. If it drops you that early, use it. It's really solid. But that you're gonna want to go to a two-hander eventually, so not a problem. I stopped using it because I was never getting it early enough. But if you do, great. But you're probably gonna want the two-handed axe most of the time anyway, or a sword. You can use a sword, but the axe has got that bleed on it. Really, any two-handed weapon. Back to uniques though, Bleeding Heart is insane if you get it early game. It's just incredibly good. There's so much leech you get, and we're not worried about spells. We're not casting spells, so it has no downside for us, and it's got the melee attack speed. Super, super, super good. This drops very early, Tome of Elements. It gives you more leech, and eventually when you turn Warpath into a fire skill, it will give you more ignite. And it'll give you chill, which is also good, but it'll give you that ignite and the ignite duration, so that's a strong one. Calamity is excellent. If you get this early, you can like technically go Warpath earlier, but I'm obviously not recommending here, but you could. But if you have this for when you make that Warpath transition, once you get to like 25-ish, you're gonna want to have this on even in the end game. You're gonna wear it for a while. Really, really good. Same thing with Torch of the Pontifex. If you have both of these, your first monolith, you go the really fast route. Your first monolith will be really easy. If you stick in the campaign, it'll be even easier. It'll be insanely easy. This drops by level 5, double bonus toll. This gives your weapons, your forged weapons, 100% chance to bleed and 100% increased bleed duration. So much damage there for them, and also gives you 100 health. So absolutely wear it. Viper Tail just gives you poison and gives you some melee attack speed. The dodge rating is not super important here, but the poison and the melee attack speed are really good early game as well. As far as like going faster, Arboreal Circuits are excellent. They're like Silver Rings on steroids. And Quicksilver Coil, same thing. I slightly prefer Arboreal Circuit because it's a guarantee, like you always have movement speed. But haste for 1 second on hit is really solid, and also that melee attack speed and a little bit of health regen. So it's just a good overall ring. Dark Strides, if you get them early, you can wear them, and they will help you as soon as you make that transition to Warpath. They have enough movement speed to be valuable, but there are uniques very early game that have more move speed that you might want to wear instead. But Dark Strides are just generally really good. Lesson of the Metropolis is good. Morning Frost is good. There's at least Stormtide is good. If you get these to drop early, you're going to be able to just move a lot faster, which that's kind of the name of the game, early game. But these you're going to wear late game. Like these are your late game boots. So if you get them to drop, awesome, because you're going to 20% move speed. And then when you transition to Void, you got all the extra stuff. It's gonna be ready for you. I think I talked about all the uniques. Okay, so let's go into the mid game. So that gets us to like level 30-ish, 35-ish. A little bit farther than that, actually, probably. That probably gets us to like level 40-ish. When you're gonna make a transition, and here's when you do it. Do not do it before. Unless you get like Dreamthorn, you can do it earlier. Like the two-handed weapon that gives a crazy amount of void pen. Like a really, really good two-handed weapon with melee void damage. If you really want to switch, then you can. But otherwise, wait until you've unlocked Rod Grip and 5 points in it. Until you have enough points to do that. So you need 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 points past Sentinel to do this, right? So 20 points in Sentinel, and then the 30 points, so it's 50 total points. When you've got 50 total passive points, then you can make the change. You need to, at that point, respec your mastery, go into Void Knight. Now, why is Time Rot when we make this change? Because Time Rot is an insane amount of damage early and mid-game. It's just insane. It's got triple... This is new, by the way. If 1.1, this wasn't true. Season 1, I mean, wasn't true. But now it's got Time Rot per slow chance, and that's That is global. It says with void skills, but it's been tested. It's actually global. I think with void skills just means like it also applies with void skills, but also if you just get pure slow chance, it works. Same thing with time rot chance. It's 2% per time rot chance. These are multipliers, and these are 3 that are multiplicative with each other. So this is a ton of damage. Attacker cast speed, time rot chance, slow chance. You're just going to be absolutely blasting. And we're going to get 30% time rot chance just from this node. We're going to get another 60% time rot just from this node. And we're going to get 50% slow chance from this node. So you've already got crazy multipliers. That's why we can make this change now, because it's going to be so much more powerful than Ignite. Like, just right out the gate. Super powerful. So we make that transition. You're going to also take enough points to get Symbols of Hope, which is a super... We didn't talk about this in the early game one. Let's talk about that really quick, and we'll come back. So Symbols of Hope you pick up, I think, around level 35. And just so much extra damage. So much extra. Also, by the way, I really should have mentioned this too. Holy Aura, put that on as soon as you get it. So when you get your mastery, just put Holy Aura on. It's a passive 30% increased damage and 15% elemental resistance. We're not going to spec into it. We don't need to spec into it. But we're going to get that extra stuff just by wearing it. So that's really good. And then once we get to where we have Symbols of Hope, even on the leveling section, that's another 75% damage, because this is per sigil or per symbol. And we're going to have 3 at all time, because Symbols of Hope has been reimagined, let's say. So now you don't have to actively press any buttons. It just does it, which is awesome. It's so good. So we get 75% increased damage. We get 3 fire damage plus 2, so 5 fire damage, 15 fire damage. That's just added fire damage. And then 90% ignite chance. I mean, imagine getting out of your gear. Just so good. And it just sits there. You don't have to do anything. And there's also an oh shit button out of it. Like, you can get 100 ward and 5 less damage taken per symbol. So 300 ward and 15% less damage taken. If you activate it, note that you'll lose the damage for a little bit. But like, you find yourself in a really tough spot and you just need ward and damage reduction for a short period of time. That's another benefit you get out of it. So we'll have that symbols. We're going to get that also in the transition to mid game. So we make sure we get that 15 points into here. And then we're also going to go ahead and get Blade Master, which is a universal attack and cast speed. 30%. Remember, this is 1% damage per attack or cast speed. And it's which is lowest. So we need to get the universal. So that's 30% more damage for time rot. That alone is going to get you to the end game setup, like easily. It'll easily get you there. We'll talk about the skills, and we'll talk about the equipment here. And then I've also got uniques for the mid game. So now we're just building a traditional Warpath Echo Void Knight setup, right? We've got Maw of the Deep. We've got some move speed. We've got our mana reduced to 0. Our mana costs, actually, we're going to regen mana. And if you get lucky and get Warpath on your Warpath skill points on your chest, get the damage, and you can get some crit chance. We have Devouring Orb, which didn't exist in this build last season because it didn't have Abyssal Rush. Now we do. This just casts while we're moving. Easy. Like, it fits the Warpath setup so well too. Void Essences are awesome. We get Void Essences, which give us 3% Void and melee damage, which are both multiplicative of each other. Per Void Essence, you can have up to 3. These are free Void Essences. We just put Devouring Orb on our bar and we're good to go. And then we'll get some shred out of it as well. Anomaly has always been in it, still is. This is effectively very similar to the endgame setup now. Big change to the passive equipment because we're doing that time route stuff. By the way, I should also mention this time route stuff is free. Like, it's totally free. We're going to build this thing the same way. We're still going to focus on hit damage, and we're just going to get a ton of extra damage from rot grip and from time rot. So we don't have to like change anything. It's kind of awesome. It's almost like cheating. It's unfair. Anomaly gives us 50% void damage taken for enemies. It used to say 100%, but it was always 50%. So it just says it right. And also more shred. Void Cleave is a movement skill that we can use. You don't need to, but especially early game when your movement speed isn't very good, this gets you around a lot faster, especially in between packs. The most important part of this is Gravity's Edge, which turns into a traversal skill and gives it a lot farther distance. An Abyssal Walker, which gives it more distance again, and Dark Pathway, which gives it cooldown recovery speed. And we already talked about symbols, and this is the same thing, just you get an extra symbol and you get some endurance threshold per symbol, so just stronger. Let's talk about the equipment though, because at this point you don't have all the really good gear, you don't have legendaries. So I've got this broken up into two sections. I've got this one here, which is all exalteds, which they could be rares, but all exalteds, and then I've got uniques. These are if you find them. Don't need any of them. You don't need any uniques to get this going, but if you find them, they're good. So let's talk a little bit about this section, but not too much. There's a couple of things here that are probably worth mentioning. Get plus to Warpath on your body armor. It's just really good. If you can find chance to inflict time route and void hit, this is not a long-term thing, but it's really good at this point because again, we have that time route multiplier. So yeah, let's take it. Weapon-wise, if you can get an Odachi, even without worrying about the crit part, the crit's nice. We are obviously not gonna be able to scale crit this early that much, so I like melee attack speed and melee avoid damage better here. If you get melee crit on it though, that's good. But I do not recommend worrying too much about crit early game because it's just hard to get enough sources of it to make it worthwhile, especially when we also have time route damage. It doesn't affect it. The health regen stuff is new. The health regen, so it gives you both base health and base health regen, which goes really, really well with Rhythm of the Tide. So that increased health regen in 10. This is just a base. This is a generic one, or not generic. This is the normal one, not the empowered one. The empowered one gives, I think, 200% health regen. I have an exalted regular health over here and exalted health regen, which is just to signify that these are about equivalent in value. Whichever one you can get, great. All res while channeling, super important. You eventually do want this to be a Code of an Erased Sentinel, but getting one with all res can be challenging. That's okay. You can wear a regular one. This one's got cold and lightning resistance on it as well. It's great. Same thing with the boots here. If you don't have the unique boots, which dark strides, excuse me. If you don't have dark strides, cold res boots are great. Get move speed. Endurance is great on the gloves if you can get it. None of this is must-haves, they're just nice-to-haves. Same with the Fizz Res, Necrotic Res Amulet. This can also be the Jade Amulet with the attack speed. That's good too. Okay, so basically fill in what you can get, right? And then same with the blessings. At this point, I'm assuming you're not empowered. And so you're getting whatever you can. Void damage is really good here. Eventually is crit multi, but you don't have that much crit. So we just take void damage. All res, armor roll channeling, increased armor, health regen, but whatever the best thing is that drops there, you're not going to want to farm these. You want to get to empowered. The idols are the same as the end game setup. I didn't see any reason to change it. You can start enchanting pretty early, even in the non-empowered timeline. So I have those on here. Obviously, you're not going to have them like this. They're not going to be this good, but this is what you're striving for. Okay, let's talk about the uniques. So we eventually want, in the end game setup, Clotho's Needle. Super, super good. Talked about it in the end game guide. But getting a good one is kind of challenging. Getting a 1 LP Apathy's Maw with melee crit might be a little easier. Do note you need to be empowered for this, so this is probably something to shoot for, like kind of mid-game transition at end game. So that's why it's definitely not in in the actual mid-game thing. Like, get what you can get. But if you get to the point to where you actually can start to farm this, getting a 1 LP now. The first legendary affix is guaranteed. You get to choose it. And so making a melee crit strike Apathy's Maw is super easy. So that's why it's in here. But you're not going to have it for a while. Titan Heart is great. Do note it turns off health regen. So if you've taken like the health regen rings or the health regen blessing, it makes those effectively useless. But wielding a two-handed melee weapon, less damage is good. Increased melee damage, increased health. I personally would only wear this if I got plus to Warpath. That's up to you whether you want to, get the damage reduction or do you want to have the more damage. Siphon of Anguish is excellent. It's going to be an endgame thing as well, as is Shattered Chains of the Ox. This is really easy to get. Siphon, you just have to kill the shade and it almost always drops one, if not always. So you can get one very, very easily. Carcinization Momentum will make you much faster and also give you a bunch of other benefits. Armor, attributes, vitality. Hard to go wrong with this. Atrophy of the Giant is very specifically for Time Rot. It's the only time you want to wear it is when you're still pushing Time Rot, which as soon as you switch to endgame, you'll see. So here we have. Oops, that's some uniques. Here we go. So we're taking Rot Grip here, but as soon as you switch to endgame, you're going to stop taking it. At that point, Atrophy is no good for you. But at this point, having that extra slow, it's a multiplier. Remember, Time Rot duration's great. So that's also technically a multiplier. And you also get penetration against all resistances for damage over time. Multiplier. Just a lot of damage on that. And this is very easy to get too. 50% chance to drop off of Rhea. So if Rhea drops it in the Black Sun, use it. If not, don't worry about it. Really not that big a deal. Talked about the Code of Erased Sentinel. It's going to take you a while to get a good one because this is a Weaver's Will item, but that's kind of what you're shooting for. And we talked about Dark Stride. Super good, especially if you can get movement speed on them, which is way easier to do now for reasons mentioned on Apathy's Maw. It's just, you can guarantee it now. Okay, so let's see here. That's it. Once you've got to this point, once you've gotten far enough along where the passive trees basically run out, you're going to switch to endgame. And then go to the endgame guide on here, and then you can watch the video on it. And you're going to be good to go. And you're blasting at that point. Like, you're already blasting by mid-game, honestly, because I'm telling you guys, you haven't seen it yet, but the power that you will behold in the Rod Grip, oh, it doesn't stay like that forever. That's why we switch out of it. There are really strong Time Rot builds. Warpath eventually just scales hit damage better. But at this point, it scales Time Rot so well, and it's just a supercharger for it. So that's why we go into that. All right, I hope that helps. I hope this increases and improves your leveling experience on tomorrow, because tomorrow's the 17th for Season 2. This is exactly what I'm going to be doing. This is my starter, so I will be right there with you. All right, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you have a great time in Season 2 along with me, and I'll see you all again real soon.